Okay, welcome to the deep dive. There's a certain kind of language you find everywhere once you start looking.
Mm-hmm.
In academic papers, official documents, and yeah, definitely in those important exam passages.
Right, that formal language, the language of regulations, complex ideas.
Exactly. And today, we're diving right into that. We're looking at vocabulary from day 36, part 1 of the English study material.
And this isn't just about, memorizing definitions off a list.
No.
We want to show you how these words actually work, how they connect with each other, and crucially, how spotting them in context gives you a real leg up when you're tackling those challenging texts.
It's about building that feel for the language,
Yeah,
understanding the little differences.
absolutely. Getting that confidence so you can navigate complex English without getting stuck.
So we've picked out key words today. They cover themes like terms and items, the language of law,
Words about building and structure, things like loyalty and obedience.
ideas of validity, solidity, and also proof and justification. It's quite a mix.
It really is. But understanding this mix is like, well, getting a key to unlock tougher reading material. Think of it as adding some essential tools to your reading toolkit.
Okay, great analogy. Let's jump in then. Where should we start?
How about with that first theme? Terms, items, and regulations. And the first word is a really interesting one, provision.
Ah, provision. Yeah, I see it has a kind of double life in formal English.
Exactly. Two main senses you'll see. The first one's pretty straightforward. Just supplying or providing something, or maybe preparing for something.
Like the example sentence, the government is responsible for the provision of education for all the children.
Right. Provision there is simply the act of supplying education. Pretty clear.
But then there's the second meaning, and this is the one that's super important for legal stuff, for academic texts.
hmm Where provision means a term or a regulation, like a specific clause in a contract or law.
Yeah, the second example really shows that difference.
hmm
They would be punished for they failed to carry out the provisions.
See? Totally different. Provisions here aren't things being supplied. They're rules, stipulations, requirements you have to follow.
So how do you tell them apart? Is there a trick?
Well, context is king, obviously. Are they talking about giving out stuff or setting rules? But
Hmm.
also look at the little words around it. Often, provision of something points to the supplying meaning.
Okay, provision of education.
Right, whereas something like carry out the provisions or under the provisions of an agreement that usually signals the rules or terms meaning,
Hmm.
getting that distinction, that's a genuine shortcut.
That's a really useful tip check, the surrounding words. Okay, so moving on from provision, what about item? That feels much simpler.
It does seem simpler. Yeah, the basic meaning is just project or like a single thing on a list, an item.
But how does it pop up in real exam texts? The source mentions one.
It does. A true question example talks about Americans buying roughly 20 billion garments a year, about 64 items per person.
64 items of clothing per person. Wow.
I know, right? But notice how item is used here. It's just a counter, a unit.
Yeah, it's not formal like a provision, meaning a rule. It's just a piece of clothing, a thing.
Exactly. And why does that matter? Because exam texts often use these simple words very precisely, especially with data or quantities. You have to see that item here is just a neutral word for garment to understand the statistic correctly.
So even simple words need attention in context. It's not just the big, fancy words.
Definitely not. It's about how all the words work together in that specific type of text.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's shift gears then to the language of law. This is a big one. Lots of core words here.
Oh, yeah. Legislation, mandate, statute, code, oblige, comply. You see these everywhere in formal writing.
Let's start with legislation. What's the core idea?
Legislation is either the process of making laws, or it can refer to the laws themselves, like a body of laws.
Okay, like the example. The government was keen to show that the new legislation was practical and effective.
Right. That means the collection of new laws they just passed.
And the source links this to legitimate, which makes sense. Laws should be legitimate, meaning lawful or proper.
Exactly. There's a clear connection in meaning from that law root. Then you have mandate. That's a strong word.
How so?
Well, it can mean official permission or authorization. Like, the bank had no mandate to honor the check. They weren't allowed to.
Okay, lack of authority.
But maybe more importantly, it often means an official order, a requirement the source gives. There is a new rule mandating that anyone cannot enter without permission.
So mandating makes it compulsory, not just allowed, but required. That's a key difference.
It really is. Permission versus requirement. Now, statute, how does that fit in?
Statute sounds very formal.
It is. Think of a statute as a specific written law that's been passed by a parliament or Congress, some legislative body.
Like the example, corporal punishment was banned by statute in 1987. It was officially written into law.
Precisely. And the adjective is statutory, meaning required by statute.
Okay, so legislation's maybe broader, like the general laws or the making of them, while statute is a specific written law itself.
That's a good way to think about it. And then code. This one has a few meanings, right? Like secret symbols.
Yeah, but in this legal context.
In law, a code is usually a whole system of laws put together, like a criminal code or a civil code, an organized body of rules.
The example about the school strict code of conduct fits too, right? A system of rules for behavior.
Exactly. And yeah, the source mentions the verb code, assign symbols, and decode just to show the word's range. But for law, think system of rules.
So we've got the general body of laws, legislation, specific written ones, statute, and organized systems. That helps map it out. But how do people actually interact with these laws? That brings us to oblige.
Right. Oblige means you're forced or required to do something, often by law or maybe duty.
The true question example is about that DNT signal, the do not track signal online.
Perfect example. Getting a DNT signal does not oblige anyone to stop tracking.
So sending the signal doesn't legally force the companies to stop tracking you. That's quite important to understand the limits there.
Absolutely crucial. It doesn't create an obligation that's the noun. An obligation is that duty or requirement you have to fulfill. If you're obliged, you have an obligation.
Makes sense. And the last one in this law group, comply.
Comply means you act according to a rule or a command or a wish. You follow it.
Like, all furniture must comply with the fire safety regulations. It has to meet the standards.
Exactly. And look at the true question example again, comparing state and federal law.
Even if state laws complied with federal statutes to the letter.
See how it connects? Complied with the statutes. It means the state laws followed the federal laws exactly, very strictly.
It links comply right back to statutes and legislation.
It does. And understanding compliance, the act of obeying, and compliant, being obedient or following rules, rounds out this whole idea of adhering to the system.
Wow, okay. That group really builds a picture of how legal systems are described. Let's switch focus a bit. There's a group of words linked by a root meaning standing or placing. That's the two words.
Yes. Constitute, institute, affiliate, and substitute. Thinking about that standing or placing idea can help.
So constitute, what's that about?
It generally means to form something, to make up a whole, or to be considered as something.
Okay, examples help here.
Right. This latest defeat constitutes a major setback. That means the defeat is considered a major setback. It stands as a setback.
Okay, and the other one?
People under the age of 40 constitute the majority. They make up the majority. They form it.
Got it. So what something is made of or how it's viewed or defined, and Constitution fits right. The basic laws that sort of make up a state.
Perfectly. The fundamental principles it stands on. Then there's institute.
That sounds like a place like a research institute.
It can be, yes, an organization set up for a purpose. He's doing research in an institute.
But it's also a verb.
Yes, and as a verb, it means to establish something, to start something formal, like a new rule or a system. The new management intends to institute a number of changes. They plan to start or establish changes.
Okay, so institute is about setting something up, an organization or a practice, whereas constitute is more about what something is or is made of.
You've got it. Now, affiliate is about connection, joining or being linked to a bigger organization.
Like the example, the group is not affiliated to any political party. They're not connected.
Right, and the true question example uses it in a business sense.
International affiliates account for a fast-growing segment.
So here, affiliates are like branches or related companies officially connected to the main one. It's really common in texts about business or organizations showing those links.
Okay, and the last one in this group, substitute.
This one's about replacement, putting something in place of something else.
There is no substitute for practical experience.
Yeah.
You can't replace it.
Exactly. Or his teacher acted as a father substitute, took the place of.
So this whole group, constitute, institute, affiliate, substitute, it's all about how things are put together, set up, connected, or replaced, often in formal settings.
Right. And remembering that shared standing or placing idea can help link them in your mind when you read them.
That mental network is useful. Okay, next theme, loyalty and obedience. We have Loyal, faithful, royal, obedient, abide, and comply comes back again.
Yes, loyal and faithful are super close. They both mean showing strong support or allegiance. You can be loyal to your country or faithful to your principles, for instance. The examples show similar uses.
And the nouns loyalty and faith are related. What about royal?
Royal is specifically about kings and queens, the British royal family. It's not personal loyalty like loyal or faithful, but it connects to ideas of allegiance within a power structure, like a monarchy.
Okay, different angle. Then obedient. That seems clear, following orders.
Yep. The first day she was very obedient and industrious, willing to do what she's told, and the noun is obedience.
Now, abide. You mentioned this one could be tricky.
It really can, because it has two main meanings, and they're quite different. You absolutely need the context.
Okay, what are they?
One meaning is to obey or comply with rules. We have to abide by the rules, follow the rules.
Standard enough. And the other?
The other meaning is to tolerate or endure something you dislike. I can't abide people who look down on others. Means I can't stand them.
Whoa. Okay, follow rules versus can't stand.
Yeah.
It's a huge difference. You really do need the context there.
Absolutely critical for abide. And then comply, we've seen acting according to a rule or command.
Right. The state law is complying with federal statutes, following the rule.
Exactly. And don't forget compliance, the act, and compliant, the adjective. So this whole group covers personal allegiance, loyal, faithful, and then the more formal following of rules or authority, obedient, abide, meaning obey, comply, and the structural idea in royal.
It gives you the words to talk about those relationships, personal support and following orders.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's look at another group with a shared root. Lid words, related to strength or health.
That's right. Valid, invalid, solid, consolidate. Thinking strength is helpful here.
So, valid. Strong in what way?
Legally strong or acceptable or factually strong. Based on reason, they have a valid claim. Means it's a legally sound, acceptable claim.
And you can validate something.
Yes. The verb validate means to confirm or prove it's true or acceptable. We validated these assumptions. We confirmed they were sound.
And the opposite is just invalid, not legally sound, incorrect. This certificate is invalid.
Right. And the true question example ties this group together nicely with the law words we saw earlier.
Yeah. Now the company is suddenly claiming that the 2002 agreement is invalid because of the 2006 legislation.
See? The legislation, the law, is used as the reason to claim the agreement is no longer valid, legally strong. It shows how these words interact in arguments about contracts and laws.
That's a great illustration. It's not just words in isolation.
Exactly. Oh, and the source mentions invalid can also mean a sick person, but in these contexts, it's almost always about something not being legally or factually sound.
Got it. Important distinction. What about solid?
Solid can mean physically hard or firm, like a solid object, but it also means reliable, dependable, strong in a less physical way. This provided a solid foundation. Means a reliable, strong basis.
Okay, and consolidate.
That means to make something stronger, more stable, or to combine things to make them stronger.
Like the example, the presidential candidate consolidated his position.
Yeah.
He made his position stronger.
Right. Or the one about Dickens. The popularity of these novels consolidated Dickens. His popularity strengthened or firmly established his reputation.
So this group revolves around strength. Legal or factual strength, valid, invalid, reliability or physical firmness, solid, and the action of strengthening, consolidate, useful for evaluating arguments or situations.
Definitely. Now for our last main group, proof and justification.
Okay, words like witness, testimony, warrant, plea, verify, simplify, clarity, and clarify. Seems like it's about proving things and making them clear.
That's the core idea. A witness is someone who saw something, especially for evidence.
She gave a witness statement. Or the example of the author having witnessed an event himself. It can be a noun or a verb.
Right. And testimony is the formal statement or evidence that a witness gives. The testimony given by the woman is dubious.
So, witness is the person, testimony is what they say formally, often in court.
Exactly. Now, warrant. This one's interesting. Another word with a couple of key meanings.
Okay.
It can be that official paper, the authorization, like a search warrant. The police arrived with a warrant.
Right, like on TV shows.
Yeah. But it can also mean justification or a good reason for doing something. They do not consider the case serious enough to warrant a government inquiry. It doesn't justify an inquiry. It's not necessary.
Ah, okay. Authorization versus justification. context again. What's a plea?
Usually an urgent request. Hospital visiting hours were extended in response to pleas from patients. They made urgent requests.
It could also be a legal statement, right? Like pleading guilty?
Yes, that's another key meaning, especially in court. The examples here focus more on the request sense.
Okay.
And the verb is plead.
Got it. Now verify. That sounds like proving something.
It is, confirming that something is true or accurate. Several witnesses verified his story. They confirmed it was true.
And the true question example used it officially. Arizona police would be allowed to verify the legal status of people.
Exactly. To check and confirm their legal status. It's about official confirmation of facts, very common in legal or administrative contexts.
Okay. Then we have the ones about making things easier. Simplify.
Just what it sounds like. Make something easier to understand or do. The whole process has now been greatly simplified.
And the other example, seeking to simplify our lives, shows it's not just for procedures.
Right. It's a broader concept, too. And closely related are clarity and clarify.
Clarity is the noun clearness, clarity of thoughts.
And clarify is the verb to make something clear.
Like the example linking them to law again. Attempt to clarify the law and simplify court procedure. Make the law clearer, make the procedure simpler.
Precisely. And clarification is the noun form of the action. So this whole group covers how you establish truth, witness, testimony, verify, provide reasons, warrant, plea, and make things understandable. Simplify, clarity, clarify. Knowing these helps you track how arguments are built and explained.
It really does tie things together. Proof, reasons, clarity. Phew. We've covered a lot from Day 36, Part 1.
We have, and what hopefully comes across is that these words aren't just random. They cluster around important ideas.
Yeah, ideas about rules, about structure, about truth, about being clear. And seeing them in the examples, especially those true question snippets.
That's where the value is. It's not just the definition, it's seeing how the word behaves in a real sentence, in the kind of writing you'll encounter.
Treating those examples like mini-reading puzzles, looking at the words around them. That's how you build the skill, isn't it? Moving from just knowing the word to understanding the whole argument.
Exactly. Training your reading intuition, recognizing the patterns of the specific job each word is doing in that context.
So this deep dive into Day 36, Part 1, hopefully it's helped you see the connections and how these words really are the building blocks for tackling more complex English.
Mastering them in context really is the key to unlocking those texts.
And maybe a final thought for you to chew on. We've talked a lot about academic texts, exams.
Yeah.
But think about your daily life. How often do you see words like mandate, comply, provision, verify?
Oh yeah, terms of service, privacy policies, news about regulations.
Exactly. Does understanding their precise meaning, the way we've talked about today, maybe change how you read those things, how you react to them?
That's a really interesting connection to the real world. Definitely something to think about. So what words from today stood out most to you? Any examples that made things click?
Let us know. Share your thoughts or any questions you might have. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive.
We really hope it helps empower your reading.